To start your grid drawing, you're going to basically be taking what's on the left, drawing what you see, and inside each box, you'll be transferring that to the grid over here on the right, and you'll notice that it's just slightly larger. So the purpose of a grid is to make it a little bit easier for you to draw, and it's an easy way for you to enlarge what you're working on. So I went ahead and I finished and completed the first box. You can see that I left some areas that I need to come in and darken just a little bit more. I used the hatching technique, or just the lines, to create the lips. And then I took and layered a blending technique for the other areas and used the tortilla and the blending stump. And then for the highlights that are here, I took my eraser after I put a little color on and I lifted that off. When you start each one, you're going to look and you have each row. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do that. The larger it is, you may want to actually number or layer your grid so that you have your columns. And sometimes that's a little bit easier to do. It is not a requirement for this assignment. But if you're struggling trying to figure out what goes in what, it's like your math skills. So you would have A1 here, and you would go to A1, and you're going to have some of the side of the head here. And you can notice that that's just the hatching technique, and you would put that in. And you'll notice the darkness of it, and you'll notice that it comes down into B1, and it lines up with that. And then you can go down into C1, and it does the same thing, except it's more narrow here. And then this area would be done with blending. Then when you go back up to A1, then you can start here. And again, you're looking at that positive and negative space. And in this case, we've talked about your eyebrows are lines, and then you're going to lay those in, and it goes into A2. And you've got to look at your space from the top as well as from the bottom. Where does it come up? How many are there? Are they going over into the other section? And layer and draw those in. If you want to put a little guideline in, you can, as you see when it comes over into 3 and into 4. And you just do your lines that way for eyebrows in this case. And then once you get those in, you can come in, and I'm just going to skip for the sake of the video and go down to B2, and I'm going to start the eye. And you can see that you have very little space here. And so you're going to come up and you're going to layer that in with that line and draw that in. And then you're going to check your space. I have my angle off a little bit, so I'm going to bring that down just a little bit here. And then it comes over. So this is that upper part of the eyelid, that bend. It comes into 3. Again, look at your negative space. That's going to be the empty area around your eye and around things that we label. And then same thing with here. We can come back over here, so we have that line. Then we can come down and we can have part of that upper eyelid here. And we can go ahead and put in the inner lower lid, put in the outer part of the lower lid, and then we can start curling and curving those eyelashes up. And you can see that they're going to come all the way up to here. And you may want to lay in your value here first in order for those to show up. That's going to be a decision you need to make. And then you can do your blending and then come in and layer those in, because eyelashes are just lines as well. You can see that it's going to be darker here, and they come out from under the lid and go up. And you can go ahead and put in your iris. Now, our eye is made up of an iris and a pupil. Your iris is your color part. So again, you're looking at your space, where it comes in. You're looking at the negative space around it to see if that shape, that white area, matches it. Now, if you're looking at it, you know that it's not technically just white. It's also got a gray tint to it. And then the upper lid goes into B3, and it comes over. Look at your space again as that comes down. And we have a little skin part that's on the inside of our eye that's made up there with the lower lid. And then you have the rest of the iris, which is, again, your color section. And then you have your pupil here. And then you can go ahead and lay in those little spaces for the lights. the reflections that you see that are gonna actually stay a little more white. And then you would come in and you're gonna have a darker rim around the eye, and you would do your shading, put all those shading skills to work to complete that one. Same thing with the nose. If you want to label it, you can, and that may make it a little bit easier to connect. And you'll notice that I kept my hands here. That's how I work easier, is I know where my hand's at, and then my pencil in my eye or my pencil in my hand, and they all move together so that I'm working in a space. And then you may want, and then if you do your grid and you do label it or you do number it, and I find it easier to do letters on one side and numbers on the other so I don't get confused, then you need to do it on both the image as well as your grid. And the same thing here. This one's going to be a lot of shading, a lot of your blending technique, and you'll come in and set all that up and then use your blending stump to get all of those dark values in there, because this is a lot of blending minus a little bit of hatching. And then that's how you're going to set up this particular exercise.